It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Emergency legislation to protect British steel as ministers accuse its Chinese owners of trying to shut down Scunthorpe's furnaces. In Scunthorpe, hundreds march in support of the plant, saying if it closes, there would be nothing left of the town. The brother of the Manchester Arena bomber attacks 3 prison officers, throwing hot cooking oil and stabbing them with homemade weapons. The United States and Iran hold indirect constructive talks on Tehran's nuclear program and will meet again next week. A king driven by helping people. The Queen says Charles wants to do more and more and more, despite continuing to receive treatment for cancer. Plus, in sport, Newcastle United manager Eddie Howe is in hospital and will miss tomorrow's match against Manchester United. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. Parliament has passed emergency legislation to save British Steel's Scunthorpe blast furnaces. The government now has the power to instruct British Steel to keep the plant open. The bill, rushed through in a single day, comes after negotiations with the firm's Chinese owners, Xingye, appeared to break down. Police were called to the site earlier this morning after officials from Xingye tried to access the plant. Well, the Prime Minister met steel workers in Scunthorpe this afternoon to try to reassure them that he is committed to the future of steel in the town. Our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, reports.
We could not, will not, and never will stand idly by while heat seeps from the UK's remaining blast furnaces.
Keeping 135 years of virgin British steel production from going cold. Our front line at times of peril.
High-strength steel.
The signature gleam, a sign of a nation on the up.
British steel.
But now, the production of steel itself under threat. Britain's final virgin steelworks in Scunthorpe, Lincolnshire, at risk of going dark within days, unless the government stepped in. The first recall on a Saturday since 1982. MPs coming from every corner to take control of the plant from its Chinese owners, passing emergency legislation to make sure there is fuel to keep the furnace burning.
This is an exceptional and unique situation that I do need all colleagues to recognise. It allows us to take control of British Steel's blast furnaces, maintaining steel production and, by extension, protecting the company's 3,500-strong workforce.
He says it's not full nationalisation.
Now, the bill does not transfer ownership to the government. We'll have to deal with this matter at a later date.
A reprieve today, but could the furnaces still go cold in a few years' time?
The action I seek to take today is not a magic wand or a panacea. The state cannot fund the long-term transformation of British Steel itself, nor would it want to do so.
An unprecedented intervention in modern times, government running but not owning the steelworks. Questions over how much this will cost.
From midnight, the Chancellor will be standing behind the payroll, settling every bill with every supplier, even if they're in arrears.
This is about so much more than just what's going on in Lincolnshire. It's about Britain's place in the world and its resilience. Can we really have a domestic steel industry if Donald Trump continues to levy 25% tariffs? Will we be able to make our own weapons if that industry goes dark? And are we eventually going to have to rely on Chinese exports of steel? Ministers today accused the Chinese owners of deliberately trying to close down the Scunthorpe plant so they can supply the material direct from China. This a worry for MPs.
What if all of Europe's ramping up, as it might well be in the next phase of Ukraine? Then all of a sudden, the Western world is short of steel, and guess where the biggest sink is? 54% of steel capacity, I think I'm right in that number, is in China. So we are going to fall dependent upon them.
Thank you for being here.
On a visit to Lincolnshire to meet steelworkers, the Prime Minister waved the flag for domestic steel. Even if the gambit to keep these steelworks open succeeds for now, is the British industry really big and sustainable enough to continue to dominate for another 100 years? Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.
While MPs debated the future of British steel in the Commons, several hundred people, including steel workers and their families, rallied in Scunthorpe for the plant to be saved. Sky's Lisa Dowd sent us this report from the town.
This march was planned to put pressure on the government to act. Now they have. There's hope.
Relief, I guess, and it's relief for all these guys. I'm six generations of my family worked in the steelworks, so it's finally time that everybody out in the outside world is seeing what we all see in this town, and it's the heart of the town.
So you see everyone here today. It's a nice sense of community that's not normally around. So it's nice to see people brought together by it.
We have lots of family members within our family who work for British Steel and have done for many years. So yeah, definitely feeling uplifted to have some good news today.
They've been making steel in Scunthorpe for 135 years. 3,500 jobs depend on this plant staying open. Many want the government to go even further.
Yes, nationalisation will have a cost. The government have committed over £2.5 billion to transitioning the steel industry to a green steel industry, but the cost of not doing it is even greater. I mean, turning this site back to a brownfield site for development would cost over £1 billion alone, not to mention the social economic impact of not having these jobs here.
This town is built on iron ore. It's under the feet of the many generations of people who worked at the steelworks, and they say that without the plant, they see no future for Scunthorpe. What would it do to the town?
There wouldn't be a town. There'd be nothing left. The steelworks would be gone, all the father figures of the family and the community, their jobs would be gone.
I really hope that things start coming out of the dark and brightening up, and so we don't have to be like anxious or like worried anymore.
The local football team, known as the Iron, is playing its part in lifting spirits.
It works in partnership. You know, we nearly went out of business as a football club. The steelworks came together, we all worked together. It's one big community. You know, without the steelworks, you wouldn't have a community.
In further solidarity, steelworkers and their families were invited onto the pitch at half-time, knowing that the fight to save their jobs is far from over. Lisa Dowd, Sky News, Scunthorpe.
So how will the government's plan to take control of British Steel work, and crucially, how much might it cost the taxpayer? Our business and economics correspondent Gurpreet Narwan has been crunching the numbers.
The government is on the verge of stepping in to protect British Steel. Its Chinese owner is withdrawing from the plant, which it says is losing £700,000 a day. It means the taxpayer could be about to pick up the tab to save the business and the 2,700 people it employs in Scunthorpe. And if we don't, that's it. We've lost our ability to make steel from scratch. The final nail in the coffin for an industry that's been in decline for half a century. Look at this chart behind me. You can see that steel output in this country has steadily fallen over time. That's the 1990s, but it was actually a lot higher back in the 60s. And it's become less critical to our economic growth, making up just 0.1%. It makes up a similar share of all the jobs in Britain, around 33,000 in total. So it's tiny. But now take a look at this line in the blue, manufacturing, which has held firm, even though steel is a critical component of most manufacturing. So where are our manufacturers getting their steel from? Well, factories across the world, not just here in the UK, have become more reliant on Chinese exports of steel. Chinese steel is a lot cheaper than the stuff we make, and China has been dumping it on the global economy. The country is now the world's largest exporter of steel, and it's hard for our domestic manufacturers, if I get out of the way, here's the UK, to compete. Which goes to the heart of the crisis facing our steel industry. It's simply uncompetitive. China is just one of the problems facing our producers. The other is cripplingly high energy costs. It takes a huge amount of power to make steel, but our industrial energy prices, that's the UK in purple, are among the highest in the developing world, up to 50% higher than those in France or Germany. And green taxes, our ageing grid, and the way we price energy are all behind that. So stumping up the cash is one thing, but if we want a viable future for steel making in this country, whether that's making steel from scratch or making recycled steel in electric furnaces, well, then the economics will have to change. And the challenge for the government is figuring out how to do that.
Our political correspondent, Rob Powell, is in Westminster for us tonight. So, Rob, legislation passed in one day, and the government tonight is making use of its powers.
Yes, Barbara, the government is not hanging around when it comes to taking control of the steel plant in Scunthorpe. We know that officials from the Department of Business and Trade have been on site already. We also know that officials from the Chinese owner of British Steel were not allowed in earlier today. And tonight, Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, has issued his first instructions to the company under these new laws. I think while there was some concern when debate was going on earlier today from some MPs and peers, there wasn't any tangible opposition. It just didn't materialise. So the government got its way easily. This extraordinary legislation was passed in a matter of hours, and you had Labour seemingly squaring up to China in a way it hasn't done since entering office. I think you will still see political rows going on around why these options weren't on the table for the Port Talbot Steelworks in South Wales and the Grangemouth oil refinery in Scotland. Expect Reform UK and the SNP to be pressing that betrayal narrative as they see it in the run-up to elections in Cardiff and Edinburgh next year. Tonight, Keir Starmer, I think, has tried to turn what was essentially a crisis into a positive news story by saying this is about turning the page on decline and that British Steel will be the backbone that will get Britain building again. I think that is a generous reading of what happened today, to be frank, because remember, this isn't a permanent solution for British Steel. Talks will carry on to try and find a commercial partner, and it may well be that the only solution in the long run is actually nationalisation. Then there are those big questions that the government will have to grapple with. What does it want the steel industry in the UK to look like? How can it make the steel industry competitive with such high industrial energy costs? So the government were essentially forced to do this because the other options ran out of road, and it would have been politically intolerable to allow those blast furnaces to go out. So I think framed like that, this isn't necessarily the show of strength that the government would like you to think it is.
Rob Powell with the latest from Westminster. Rob, thank you. And there will be more reaction to the government's efforts to save British Steel on Sunday morning with Trevor Phillips. Trevor will be joined by the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, the Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, the co-leader of the Green Party, Adrian Ramsey, and the economist, Paul Krugman. 3 prison officers have been attacked by the brother of the Manchester Arena bomber at Frankland Prison. Hashim Abedi threw hot cooking oil over the officers before stabbing them with homemade weapons. Let's cross live now to Frankland Prison in County Durham and speak to our North of England correspondent Fraser Maud. And Fraser, this attack has been described as vicious.
Very much so, yeah. Vicious and unprovoked, according to the Prison Officers Association. So much so that it prompted a comprehensive response from the local ambulance service, North East Ambulance, when the incident was reported to them just before 11 o'clock this morning. They sent 2 ambulances with paramedics initially, then also a fast response vehicle with a doctor, and then the air ambulance as well. They also sent in a hazardous area response team. Understandable, given that this is a Category A prison. It houses 850 or so of Britain's worst and most violent offenders, rapists, murderers and terrorists. And according to the Prison Officers Association, it was one of the people in here for terror attacks that carried out this awful assault on the 3 officers. 28-year-old Hashim Abedi was jailed in 2020 for 55 years for his part in planning the Manchester Arena bombing, which was carried out by his brother Salman Abedi. It killed 22 people, injured many dozens more. And today, the Prison Officers Association say that it was Hashim Abedi who attacked 3 officers, throwing boiling hot oil at them and then attacking them with a homemade improvised weapon. The national chair of the Prison Officers Association is Mark Fairhurst. He spoke to us earlier on and gave a few more details about his understanding of what happened here this morning.
This attack was actually in a separation centre at Frankland, which houses the most dangerous criminals that society throws at us. And part of the normal regime is to allow prisoners in that separation centre to cook their own meals. So this individual has been heating up cooking oil, has subdued the staff by throwing it over them and then has proceeded to stab and slash them with an improvised weapon.
I understand that the separation centres in Frankland here are often used to keep prisoners who have idealistic notions, to prevent them from radicalising others within the general population. And they do have these rights and privileges, as Mark Fairhurst was saying there, that they were cooking their own food. They're allowed to prepare their own food in those separation units. And he did tell us later on that he says that there should be some way of addressing the situation, the regime which allows the prisoners those privileges. He said that that will seriously have to be looked at. We've also heard from the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who in a statement today has said, "I'm appalled by the attack of 3 brave officers at HMP Frankland today. My thoughts are with them and their families." She goes on to say that the police are now investigating and says, "I will be pushing for the strongest possible punishment. Violence against our staff will never be tolerated." Now, a police investigation is underway at the moment. Durham Constabulary have confirmed that the 3 officers who were taken to hospital after the incident, 2 of them remain in hospital in what's said to be a serious condition. Thankfully, the 3rd officer, a female officer, was released from hospital care earlier this afternoon.
Fraser Maud, outside Frankland Prison in County Durham. Fraser, thank you. US and Iranian officials have been holding what are being described as indirect talks today in Oman to discuss Tehran's nuclear program. It's the first round of negotiations between the two countries, with Iran saying more talks are set to take place next week. Well, Sky's Nicole Johnston joins me now. Nicole, obviously the first step, one hopes, towards more talks, but how did they go so far?
Well, both sides are really trying to present a very positive light on these talks. Certainly for the Iranians, they've said that they were constructive talks. They've said that their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, actually spoke directly with Trump's presidential envoy, Steve Witkoff. And that is quite something because, as you said, Barbara, these are indirect talks. So the way they happen is that an Omani negotiator shuttles between both sides, delivering messages, trying to work out what is the exact position of both Iran and the United States. So it is a big moment in the relationship between these countries, whether or not it can get back on track. We've had increasing tension in the region. President Trump insists that Iran will not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, but at the same time, he has said that he wants to see the country flourish. So we'll have to wait and see how these talks go.
Donald Trump has his own, diplomatic style, and Iran is particularly vulnerable right now. So what do both sides want to come out of these talks?
Well, certainly for the US, they've made it very clear that whatever happens, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. But the big question with regards to Trump, as you said, he's a mercurial president. We don't know what he'll do next. So what sort of negotiation will there be? Will he call for a complete dismantling of their nuclear program, or will he be prepared to compromise, perhaps having inspectors go in and limiting the amount of enriched uranium that Iran is allowed to have? Now, for Iran, though, this is all about sanctions. They are desperate to get sanctions relief. Their economy is in crisis. Inflation is through the roof. The currency has crumbled. And they insist, anyway, that they're not trying to develop a nuclear weapon, that all of this is for civilian purposes, and that a red line for them is dismantling the program, that there is no way that that is going to happen. So you can see just how far apart these two sides are. The last time a deal was done, it took years to get off the ground, but President Trump is in a rush. He wants it done in the next few months, and he is putting a great deal of pressure, also military pressure in the region, on Iran to come to the table.
Nicole Johnston with the latest on those talks. Nicole, thank you. Islanders who rely on ferries in Scotland say they're sick and tired of being ignored. 2 new vessels, one delivered 7 years late and the other still being built, cost 4 times their original price tag and are too big for the harbour for their daily journeys. Ardrossan has been the main port for the ferry service to Arran for decades, but has now become a ghost town, with services forced to reroute further down the coast. Today, residents have been staging a protest in a bid to save the harbour that has served their community for generations. Our Scotland correspondent Conor Gillis reports.
Out there is the Isle of Arran, one of Scotland's greatest assets. Along here is the closest mainland connection, Ardrossan. But the ferry you see isn't coming this way. In fact, none are. The brand new £400 million vessels paid for by taxpayers are too big to fit in this, the main harbour. And now anger has led to protest in a demand for urgency as the Scottish Government considers buying the port from its private owners.
The purpose of this protest is to bring pressure to bear on the Scottish Government to get together with the owners of Ardrossan Harbour and get a deal done, perhaps take it into public ownership, which would be a popular decision, and then get the much needed upgrading work done at Ardrossan Harbour so that it can be enlarged, widened, made more reliable, and most important of all, the ferry behind me, the Glen Sannets, can actually sail out of Ardrossan.
It is seen as one of Scotland's biggest scandals. In January, this ferry finally set sail, almost 7 years late, in a botched deal that cost quadruple the original price tag. Its sister ship is still sitting unfinished in the yard, and neither can come here as the harbour hasn't been upgraded, despite talks starting more than a decade ago.
What kind of impact then is this having?
Well, currently, with no ferry or anything at all here, the town, it's just a ghost town. It's so quiet, it's spooky. It's frankly a disgrace, economically, and for most people in Arran, and for people of this area, and businesses. This is the route. We have the infrastructure. We just need the berths fixed.
It's completely and utterly nuts. I mean, why they would commission a ferry which doesn't fit the harbour for the route it's meant for? It's just crazy. Just can't understand it at all.
It has a ripple effect across these communities. Dire warnings from businesses who rely on passing trade. Some weekends, they say, there are 1,500 cars here. And now look at it. There's nothing. Talks on any future possible sale of this site remain a secret for the moment. All the while, services are diverted elsewhere, and this community suffers completely avoidable economic damage. Conor Gillis, Sky News on the Ayrshire coast.
Queen Camilla says the King wants to do more and more and more, even as he continues to be treated for cancer. That work ethic was on full display during a 4-day royal visit to Italy, but a much higher stakes meeting could soon lie ahead, with rumours US President Donald Trump may travel to Scotland as early as this summer to meet the King. Royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills filed this report, and a warning: it does contain flash photography.
A scrum is the only way to describe it. Entourage, security, locals, all crammed into the square in Ravenna, and in the middle of it, a man who's still having cancer treatment. A king who can't or won't stop, according to palace sources.
Queen Camilla! Queen Camilla! Happy anniversary! Happy anniversary!
And confirmed by his wife, Camilla. Talking to British press at this school in Rome, she said, "He loves his work and it keeps him going. And I think it's wonderful, you know. If you've been ill and you're recovering, you're getting better. And now he wants to do more and more and more. That's the problem. That's what he's driven by, helping others."
Very much. Grazie. Grazie.
Away from the chaos, he certainly seemed on good form. His cancer journey also being followed here, including by these women who travelled to London for his coronation.
We find that he's doing very well also in this condition. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yesterday with the voice in Italian is very emotional for us.
Yeah, the speech in the Parliament.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
His Italian was
very good.
It's a big gift.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Like
Comments and pictures that will no doubt raise a smile for the UK government. The tour all about resetting and reaffirming our relationship with a key European partner. But a more complex meeting with another president lies ahead, with rumours that sometime this summer he could meet Donald Trump in Scotland. The palace will only guide that we will see more inward and outward state visits this year. One thing that is guaranteed when he does meet Trump, Number 10 will be hoping for more of what we've seen this week. This feels like a world away compared to a year ago, when, of course, the King, who's in there somewhere, had to step away from public duties because of his cancer diagnosis. Of course, the fact in recent weeks that he has suffered some side effects from that treatment has been a real reminder to all of us that he is still going through that treatment and under doctor's orders. Not that you would really see any signs of that over the last few days. The palace insists that doctors are happy with his current workload and that his treatment is going tremendously well, at a time when the government certainly needs him on top form, with an American president still to charm. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
Let's get the latest sport now from Sky Sports News and Josh.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Hello, my name is Matthew Atpan. This is my home. You want to come inside? I've got 2 Guinness World Records, but I've broken 3. The first one I did was dressing up as John Cena. I had to run the full marathon dressed in that costume, which is what gave me the world record of running the fastest marathon dressed as a professional wrestler. I was able to do that again for the half marathon. So the first one was at York, and then the second one was at Leeds half marathon in 2021 and 2022 respectively. We were all in COVID times when we all lost people. In particular, in my situation, I lost my grandma, and my dad unfortunately passed away from kidney failure in January 2021. And as a tribute to him and to everyone sort of like who had lost something, I wanted to sort of like do something to commemorate him. And that started by me choosing the Guinness World Record as the professional wrestler. John Cena sending me a congratulations tweet for my world record, my Guinness World Record. It was unbelievable, and that says to me that maybe I've done something good, you know, in this world, and sort of I can have the impression that he's had on me. The third one I've broken is the amount of wrestlers' anthems to come out to in 1 minute, which I got to 18. That has since been broken now.
Instead of theme tunes, I'm going to ask you to name as many WWE wrestlers as you can.
Okay. John Cena, got The Rock, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Liv Morgan, the Charlotte, Becky Lynch is still there, Bailey, Jey Uso and his brother Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa as well, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa's there, we've got the New Day as well, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, got Michael Cole, Wade Barrett, Joe Tessitore, who's drafted, who comes in and out, Rikishi managers as well, so we've got the Hall of Famer Paul Heyman as well. When I did get diagnosed in 2013 with autism, having failed my degree in 2012, I decided to try and get back to university because I felt there was something like holding me back, and that's what did lead to the diagnosis. When I did sort of like found out, it was a bit of a relief because I knew that potentially I could go back to uni and then I'd understand myself better and I'd be able to grow. The big thing in life is about like talking about it, and that's why I think a lot of people on the spectrum, they struggle to sort of like speak about being autistic because they see these challenges and they see the way people react, and either they're not given the privileges that others are, or they end up leaving because the pressure is too much for them to cope with. I'm running the Great North Run this year. I'll be attempting another world record, again dressed as John Cena, try and break my current 1 hour 24. This is the park where I'll be training here, and this you'll see me a lot of the time trying to sprint off and doing a lot of sessions over here, so come on.
What is it about running that you enjoy?
The sense of openness and relief to be who I am, it makes me feel great and sort of like a sense of I can tackle anything. Initially I was in a track when I was 13, but also now it's down to parkrun basically. So I've run 370 parkruns, and it was through there for the last 15 years I've had my greatest success. A lot of people said they were inspired by my effort, which also links into the fact of me being on the autism spectrum, through my achievements and through what I've got and the condition that.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
And that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's papers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by broadcaster and commentator Duncan Barks and journalist and author Christina Patterson. And among the stories, we'll be discussing this on the front of the Sunday Mirror. The headline, Ring of Steel. We'll be right back.